brought to you by Brand South Africa.
Over the last decade, Africa was home to 6 of the world's 10 fastest growing economies, and the outlook for the region remains bright at a time when the rest of the world is facing major political and economic challenges. The 2012 World Economic Forum on Africa is currently underway in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. Bronwyn Nielsen caught up with Kanayo Nwanze, the president of IFAD, and asked him for an overview of the overall agricultural investment trends.
There was very serious disinvestment in agriculture the last 30 years. And then we had the food crisis in 2008 and 2009. And subsequently, both governments of African countries and the international development community realized that this was a red signal. And since then, there has been some efforts to try to galvanize additional resources, both from governments and from development partners, but more recently, getting the private sector to be involved. Why? Because farming, agriculture by itself is a private business. And if farmers are not linked with larger private sectors, their access to markets are constrained. And what I've seen in the last couple of years is tremendous interest by the private sector. We had a session yesterday called Grow Africa. We have meetings today again looking at Green Africa. And the recognition that Africa, even though it has challenges with respect to food security, when you take those challenges and turn them around, you have tremendous opportunities.
Let me interject there. What are you doing around subsistence farmers? Because we've got 500 million developing farmers worldwide.
That's correct, yes, yes. This is interesting. Now, you see, when you look at the potential of 500 million smallholders feeding the world, and the realization that they produce 80% of all the food that is consumed in the developing world, you cannot ignore them in any agricultural agenda. So what we're doing is, how can we transform subsistence agriculture to commercially viable agriculture? Commercial agriculture is not necessarily large scale. It means, how can small farmers become commercial?
Is that the reality, though? Is it happening on the ground?
It is happening on the ground. On Sunday, I was in Uganda, and I visited Kalangala Island, where I saw smallholders as outgrowers producing oil palm, feeding a parent company. And here I see farmers who are moving from $50 a month in profits to $500 a month. What has happened? They have been linked to markets, they have access to financial services, infrastructure has been put in place, roads are available so they can transport their produce. So the transformation we're talking about here, investment, not only in production and productivity, but also
in infrastructure. So that's a big theme. Are you deploying funds specifically into infrastructure for farmers?
Yes, we are. In the programs that we support in Africa and elsewhere, our major focus are: how do you increase production and productivity? How do you empower women? Because women are a majority of the farmers. How do you build capacities of farmers' organizations, microfinance, rural finance, and infrastructure, small roads, feeder roads, irrigation facilities, storage facilities, and we deploy, on the average, the last 2 years, $1 billion in loans and grants to smallholder agriculture.
And so that's effectively what you're doing here, is providing microfinancing to those developing farmers. Is Africa your key focal area? What about other emerging markets?
Well, in fact, Africa happens to be just one of 5 regions where we invest. And within Africa, we have 3 regions: Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean. And Africa, about 50% of our resources are devoted to Africa, 23% or so to Asia, another 13% to Latin America, then North Africa and the Near East, about 11%. So Africa actually gets the majority of our resources.